Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to talk about algae pollution indicators. Pollution of surface water has become one of the most important environmental hazards. Urbanization and industrialization, which go hand in hand, are one of the major causes of water pollution. Man has made progress but has forgotten to take care of nature. Human activities like washing clothes and vehicles in water bodies has led to addition of soaps and detergents entering the water body. Lack of proper drainage system leads to contamination of water. Untreated sewage disposal largely contributes to the organic pollution of water. Industries are largely responsible for water pollution. Effluent discharge from chemical factories lead to organic pollution. You can see in the picture there how effluents are being discharged in the water bodies. Organic effluents also frequently contain large quantities of suspended solids. Similarly, effluents from textile industries contain dyes which reduce the light available for photosynthetic organisms like algae. Some 80% of the world's wastewater is dumped largely untreated back into the environment, polluting rivers, lakes, and oceans. Presence of organic pollution and nutrient enrichment in water alters its biotic composition, which is clearly indicated by the presence of photosynthetic organisms, the primary producers of the aquatic ecosystem, the algae. Now, what are these algae? These are the most common and abundantly occurring organisms. We see them almost everywhere during the rainy season. The green slippery layer formed on the tiles in our compounds is nothing but algae. Similarly, the green carpet which is formed on the surfaces of lakes and oceans is also nothing but algae. In Marathi we call it shevar and in Hindi we say kai. Now the expression which we generally get as soon as we see this shevar or kai is a big yee, isn't it? Now wait till I take you for a walk in the beautiful world of algae. I'm sure it'll change your perception regarding algae. You will see how they are not only beautiful microscopic organisms, but how useful they are to the human being. They can indicate water pollution by their mere presence and proliferation in it. They are the best pollution indicators. So come on, let us embark on a journey into the world of algae. You can see in the picture how beautiful they look. They are sometimes single celled, they occur in colonies, they are attached with each other in the multiples of four. There can be huge colonies and the whole colony floats stuck together. Algae are a diverse group of aquatic organisms that are capable of carrying out photosynthesis. They may appear in many different shapes, size, colors. They are the primary producers of the aquatic ecosystems. They can exist on their own or they can grow on the surfaces of other organisms, in the soil or on rocks. These organisms are very important because they make much of the earth's oxygen. Some of these organisms, such as seaweeds, they look like plants. These seaweeds are also called as macroalgae, as they can be seen with naked eyes, the term macro. However, they are neither plants nor animals. Instead, they belong to a group of living things called as protists. They vary greatly in size and grow in different diverse habitats. Microscopic algae, also called as phytoplanktons, they float or swim in the lakes and oceans. Phytoplankton is so small that thousands of individuals can fit on the head of a pin. That is why we are saying they are microscopic. The top picture on the right hand side shows you the microscopic minute algae. The largest form of algae are seaweeds, and they can stretch up to 100 meters, that is 300 feet, from the bottom of the ocean to the water surface. That is seen on the picture at the bottom. Although most of these organisms grow in fresh water or seawater, they also grow on soil, trees, and animals such as turtles and polar bears, and even under or inside porous rocks such as sandstones and limestones. They can tolerate a wide range of temperature, and they can grow in hot springs, on snowbanks, or deep within the polar ice. Now, why are they so important? Microscopic forms that live suspended in the water column, called phytoplankton, provide the food base for most marine food chains. It is in very high densities, then they are called as algal blooms. These algal blooms may discolor the water or poison other life forms. The seaweeds grow mostly in shallow marine waters. Some are used as human food or are harvested for useful substances such as agar or fertilizers. Algae are the most important photosynthesizing organisms on Earth. They capture more of the sun's energy and produce more oxygen than all plants combined. They form the foundation of most aquatic food webs, which support an abundance of animals. There are various types of algae and they are grouped under different heads. First is Euglenophyta. These Euglenophyta are also called as euglenoids. They are fresh and saltwater protists. Some euglenoids are autotrophic while others are heterotrophic. See, I have supported all these types of algae with pictures. On the right hand side, you can have a look at the beautiful algae. Chrysophyta, also called as golden brown algae, and the diatoms. They are the most abundant types of single celled algae, which are approximately 100,000 different species. Look at the beautiful ornamentations which are present on the surface of these algae. Pyrophyta, or the fire algae. They are single celled algae. They are found in both the oceans and in fresh water. They use flagella to move around. Chlorophyta or green algae. They typically live in fresh waters. Green algae have cell walls which are made of cellulose and are photosynthetic. Rhodophyta or red algae. Look at the picture, the red venation. The overall algae, it gives a red coloration to the water body where it is present. They are mostly found in tropical marine environments. These eukaryotic cells do not have flagella and centrioles unlike other types of algae. Phaeophyta or brown algae. These are amongst the largest species. Example include both seaweed and kelp. See, they look like plants. As I told you, seaweeds, they are macroalgae. They can be seen with naked eyes. They resemble the plants. These are also called as aquatic weeds. Xanthophyta or yellow-green algae. These are the least common species of algae. They are single-celled and both cellulose and silica make up their cell wall. Because of the presence of cellulose and silica, these are somewhat rigid structures. Now, did you know something about the algae? There are really some interesting facts about them. The cyanobacteria might also be in your breakfast smoothie. The superfood spirulina is a non-toxic cyanobacteria popular for its nutritional profile, including proteins, vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids. Plenty of larger algae are both nutritious and delicious. For instance, in Japan, you might find dozens or more varieties of seaweeds on the menu from soups to sushi wrappers. Microalgae can be processed into liquid or dried into granules and powdered after being cultured in petri dishes, providing the human with key vitamins. Algae has probably found its way into your desserts too. The gelatinous additive agar and carrageenan, produced from different species of red algae, thickens and prevents separation of ice cream, jellies, sweets, and many other processed foods. Researchers are even adding algae to the dairy cow diets. Results from 2017 study suggest that supplementing feed with seaweed might cut down on the methane the cow burps out. The algae produces a chemical that inhibits gut microbes from making as much of the greenhouse gases. Today, algae actually help to maintain the carbon cycle. Scientists estimate that algae produce at least half of the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere by converting carbon dioxide during photosynthesis. Researchers are also going on for utilizing microalgae and the seaweeds as a source of biofuels. Now, these algae are an excellent organism for pollution indicators. They act as pollution indicators. Their mere presence in the water body indicates that there is some type of pollution, and if you don't act on it at the earliest, then you're bound to face algal blooms. Now, how do they indicate pollution? Why are they called as good indicators of pollution? Well, the reasons are they are significant component of biological monitoring programs for assessing the water quality. They are eligible to water quality assessment because of their nutrient requirements, rapid reproduction rate, and very short life cycle. Algae are important indicators of pollution since they respond immediately to the change in environmental conditions. Both qualitative and quantitative composition of species in a wide range of water situations. Due to the alteration in water chemistry, such as increase in water pollution due to domestic or industrial waste, affects the composition of the genera that are able to tolerate these situations. From the ecological and public health perspective, the abundance of nutrients containing nitrogen and phosphorus that flow into the lakes, reservoirs, and other aquatic ecosystems result in eutrophication is a cause of concern. The nitrogen phosphorus ratio identifies as to which algal genera are dominant, present, or absent in these nutrient impacted aquatic ecosystems. Sources of inorganic compounds that contain these elements involve domestic detergents, commercial fertilizers which are used for agriculture, and runoff, along with organic pollution from sewage and livestock wastes. Biological analysis can define possible changes in water quality as well as the tendencies with time that are reflected in environment variation and the composition of aquatic organisms. Phytoplanktons consist of large diversity of algae with different forms. Planktonic genera such as Microcystis, Anabina, Nodularia, Planktothrix, and Trichodesmium has gas vacuoles that help them to float. Benthic species like Lyngbia, Formidium, Oscillatoria, and Schizothrix they tend to locate at the sediment, and the naturally buoyant algae having similar density to water such as Oocystis and Chlorella, species of dinoflagellates and Euglenophyta, they migrate freely in the water column. When reservoirs and lakes become more eutrophicated, the diversity of phytoplankton species gradually decline. This eventually leads to cyanobacteria dominance. Toxin producing phytoplankton communities are sensitive to alteration in their habitats, and therefore phytoplankton total biomass and many phytoplankton species are utilized as indicators of aquatic ecosystem. Phytoplankton or algal communities give more evidences concerning alteration in water quality than nutrient or chlorophyll A concentration. Water quality as a whole is a combination of physical, chemical, and biological properties of water. Several algae, which are good indicators of water quality, and many lakes are characterized based on their dominant phytoplanktonic group. Many desmids, the picture on the right hand side top corner, it shows the beautiful desmids. They are present in oligotrophic waters, which are frequently seen in eutrophic water bodies also. Similarly, many blue-green algae occur in nutrient-poor water, while specific ones grow in organically polluted waters only. Some diatoms, the picture at the bottom, are also indicators of organic pollution. The presence of Anabena, Microcystis oscillatoria, Nostoc, Dinobrion, Crucoccus, and Melanomonas indicate toxicity and pollution in aquatic ecosystem, thereby showing that algological studies are important for water quality assessment and can provide early warning signs of water degradation. Look at Anabena. Beautiful beaded necklace-like structures. These are all microscopic organisms. Pictures taken are under the microscope. Similarly, presence of many blue-green algae like Nodularia species, dinoflagellates like Alexandria tamarans, Nauticula scintillans, diatoms like Pseudonychia species, they all indicate algal blooms. It is important to consider that the phytoplankton community changes quickly as a response to change in water quality. The first reaction of such change in water environment is the quantitative change of phytoplankton community. The amount of algae increases or decreases depending upon the type of impact on the water mass, which is followed by qualitative changes of the planktonic community. New species colonize in the lake, and some of the original species may decrease based on local extinction in some cases. Now, bioindicator system, according to the Bass-Decking hypothesis, it says everything is everywhere. The environment selects. This has dominated the view on microbial distribution for decades and has definitely conduced to the prevailing concept that algae are cosmopolitan organisms. While physical and chemical water quality measurements can indicate the level of water degradation, these methods represent only a snapshot of the current condition in the aquatic system by giving only a transient picture of the prevailing environmental conditions. The abundance and community patterns of organisms in situ reflect precisely the water quality at that point. Organisms can be used to compare relative variation in water quality in terms of habitat, variability, or time. Water quality parameters, which are dissolved nutrient concentrations, suspended solids, and turbidity and chlorophyll A as phytoplankton biomass, are usually directly detected either by traditional periodic water sample collections followed by analysis or with continuously logging instruments which are available for turbidity and chlorophyll. However, the dilemma is that periodical measurements of parameters that vary significantly with time frames less than the sampling interval will require long time series to detect any changes, whereas continuous logging instruments are expensive to purchase and require regular field working for maintenance. For these reasons, numerous studies have been proposed to use bioindicators like algae for evaluating changes in water quality, testing various measures for lakes and rivers, and assessing biological organisms. Why are bioindicators better than other methods? The algae are mainly sessile, so they cannot migrate to avoid pollution. They must tolerate the pollution or they should disappear. The algae are autotrophic and placed at the interface between the habitat and biotic components of food web. Algal communities are species rich and each species has its own tolerance level. All algae have short life cycles and so have a rapid response to the change, while the community lives long enough to integrate impact with time. The algae are spatially dense and easy to sample and store. The algae are smaller in size than other biota and so are potentially more sensitive to pollution at lower concentrations. Now, what are algal blooms? We have just taken a round to see what are the different types of algae, how they occur, what happens if they are dominant, what happens if the water body is rich in nutrients, how are algal blooms formed, what are these algal blooms. Phytoplankton converts the inorganic nutrients into vegetative matter in the presence of sunlight through the process of photosynthesis. Phytoplankton play significant role in atmospheric concentration of CO2 by altering the rate of carbon sequestration. When present in high numbers, however, their presence may appear as dramatic discoloration of water. This population growth can be rapid and typically occur when temperature and nutrient level rises, usually in late summers and winters. This phenomena is named as algal bloom or eutrophication. Algal blooms have been observed all over the world. It has dominated most of the major water bodies and it has really become a nuisance for the aquatic ecosystem. Now we are going to see some of the algal blooms in Indian waters. Harmful algal blooms, which are lethal for human beings and marine ecosystems, are steadily increasing in the Indian waters. There were 80 harmful algal blooms between 1998 and 2015 in the Indian seas, as compared to only 88 between 1958 to 1997. See the amount of pollution we are causing. This is clearly seen in the number of algal blooms which have been observed. It was the Arabian Sea which experienced the most number of blooms over the decades. The blooms turn lethal for humans when they consume marine organisms that feed on such algae. Upwelling, formation of mud banks, nutrient discharge from estuaries, effluent discharge from chemical plants, and surface runoff during monsoon are some of the major positive factors for water pollution, which are clearly indicated by the algal blooms. Now, what is actually observed? This is a picture of the Arabian Sea. The green layer is nothing but the algal bloom caused in the Arabian Sea. This is a satellite picture of the Arabian Sea which was taken by ISRO in February 2018. Every year during winters, northwestern Arabian Sea experiences outbreak of Nauticula algal blooms. This blooms at times causes fish mortality on Oman coast due to hypoxia. Now these blooms they are not restricted only to a particular region. Once this bloom occurs in these large water bodies, they spread for kilometers and kilometers and the whole water body subsequently gets covered with the algal blooms. Nautiluca with the in Latin which means shining by night. It is commonly known as sea sparkles because of their ability to produce blue bioluminescence at night. The bioluminescent characteristics of Nautiluca scintillans is produced by a luciferin luciferase system located in thousands of spherically shaped organelles or microsources located throughout the cytoplasm of these single-celled protists. Non-luminescent populations within the genus Nautiluca lack these microsources. It may be bioluminescent except in parts of the northern and eastern Pacific Ocean. It was observed that sparkling bioluminescence lighted up the wakes of the ship at night. This growing trail of water formed by the passage of ship retains its common name sea sparkle. This is a picture of Nautiluca algal blooms that was observed in the sea of Kochi during 2008 monsoon. Now you might be wondering, just now I showed you a picture of the Arabian Sea with algal blooms of the same algae, Nautiluca, and it was appearing green. We called it as a sea sparkle there. Here also this is a sea sparkle. But why does it appear reddish brown? Let's see how. Red tide of heterotrophic dinoflagellate Noctiluca scintillans was observed off Kochi along with the multi-species diatomic bloom generated by upwelling induced eutrophic conditions during southwest monsoon in August 2008. Now, why the red color? The whole area of the bloom occurred was conspicuously bioluminescent. Diatoms were mainly represented by the species belonging to the genera Chaetoceros, Navicula, Thalassiosira, Coscinodiscus, and Nitschia, which were also the main food item found within the Nautiluca cells. Now, because of the presence of these diatoms inside the Nautiluca cells, it was giving the type a red color. Closer observation of the Nautiluca cells revealed that food vacuoles contain diatoms and remains of these species. It is implied that abundance of Nautiluca scintillans could be due to the occurrence of its preferred food species. Now, the most interesting and important thing which happened in the month of June this year. One fine morning in the Bulthana district of Maharashtra, when people were locked inside their houses due to corona, some villagers found that their lunar lake had turned pink. These villagers thought it was a miracle of God in these tough times of corona. They started offering flowers and garlands and they made offerings to the God. They were thanking God. They thought that by turning the lake pink, it was the God's message that now everything will be all right and the corona will be gone soon. Little did the poor villagers know that the pink color of the lake was due to the algal blooms found by an algae called Genelia selina. As the water level water level decreased due to rise in temperature and salinity of the lake increased, gave rise to blooms of the salinity loving algae Genelia selina. Do you know something interesting about Panvel? Do you know how Panvel got its name? In Marathi it means पाण्याचा वेल, which means creeper of water bodies. But unfortunately, we see hardly 3 or 4 lakes left now in Panvel. Human activities, dumping of waste, change in climatic conditions have all led to eutrophication of water bodies, and what we see today is only land where once upon a time there used to be beautiful lakes. Now the question arises, we have been talking about algal blooms, algae as indicators, so much pollution around. Can we clean it up? Can we stop the algal blooms, or can we end these harmful algal blooms? No, we cannot clean up or end the harmful algal blooms, as in case of oceans and lakes, the concerned area is large. Methods suggested for this purpose are aeration of the water body, use of chemicals, mechanical removal, applying filters. The cost incurred in this process is very high. And mechanically removing or applying filters to such a large area, if you are talking about the Arabian Sea or the larger ocean bodies, it is practically impossible to set up instruments which will mechanically remove all the algae. It runs for kilometers and kilometers. It is practically impossible. Yes, but the algal blooms can be stopped from happening. How? by preventing the nutrients from entering the water bodies, by stopping anthropogenic activities. Strict compliances of norms for effluent discharge should be there. Checking functioning of the CETP, that is the Common Effluent Treatment Plant. It has been observed in many places like the MIDC Taloja in Navi Mumbai. It ha- there is a CETP there, but the effluents are directly discharged into the water bodies around, making it impossible for the water bodies to survive. Last but not the least, periodical sampling of water to check for indicator species of algae is a must if we want to stop the algal blooms from appearing. So, friends, control pollution and save our planet. Thank you.